Okay, let's have some breakfast here. I said I was going to open a jar of these. I don't know if y'all can see that on the side of the pan right there. Jar of this pork this morning that I canned yesterday. And it just so happens that this jar wasn't full, so that's okay. I put it in the canner to take up room anyway. Besides, it's a good way to cook it. What we got in the pan is just some potatoes that we've diced up and made some hash browns out of. We'll put some of this pork in there. Of course, I got a little bit of the juice in there. Okay, now when you do these jars and you fill them with meat, you're going to want to come to this ring right here. And that just happens to be where your ring screws down to hold the seal in place. And what you'll do is you want to stuff your meat right to that line right there, as tight as you can pack it in there. Because when this is under pressure, it's going to suck the water out of the meat. See that juice right there? That's all out of that meat. And it don't come out tasting salty or anything like that. And while we're sitting here making breakfast and we happen to be eating this wild pork, let's just talk a little bit about that. I know there's a few of y'all, quite a few of you, that hunt every year, kill wild game. But there's some out there that don't hunt every year, that don't kill nothing. Never ate any wild pork or venison or elk, caribou, moose, anything, bear, anything like that that you can eat. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that when you get around to start eating that, you better be prepared. Because the meat you get in the store is at least 6 months old, if not older. They call it aging. Well, when you start to eat fresh meat, I'm going to put a little egg in there. When you start eating fresh meat, you're going to smell bad. I just don't know any other way to put it. And by smelling bad, I mean you're going to be able to pull a maggot off a gut wagon. That's just the way it is. I've known guys that have been hunting all their life and couldn't figure it out. You know, every year at hunting season they get a deer and they start smelling bad after they eat that deer. Well, that fresh meat will do that for you. And you'll also find yourself a little better than regular, if you know what I mean. And so those of you that have never ate wild game, just a little heads up that you know it's coming. Has something to do with the fresh meat. And there's a difference when you go to process your deer, hog, whatever. They don't process the same as as a domesticated animal. And I'll tell you a little known fact. Domestic hogs have one more vertebrae because of the way we've bred them than do wild hogs do. So, and when you cut the meat up from a deer or a wild hog, the way you utilize that meat, there's a big difference. The meat from domestic animals, you can pretty much cook it any way you want. Venison, you don't want to add no water to it. It will be tough as the sole of your shoe. It'll be like boot leather. You add water to it. The only way I found that you can have venison stew to come out, if you're going to put water in your venison stew, is to cook it slow on a low heat, like in a crock pot, and for a long time overnight. I've heard people say, yeah, we just boiled up a roast, and I'll bet you had good teeth to chew that thing too. But I've made roasts out of them. I've made about everything you can make out of it. Hell, I'm making breakfast out of wild hog now. But that's just a little bit of what I've found to be true. So if you've never eaten wild game, I gotta say you need to get out there and experience it firsthand before something happens and you have to live off of it. Because the way you prepare it, you can either ruin it or it's gonna come out good. And right now, I'm gonna put a cover on that. Just let her simmer there a little bit, and I'm gonna grab me a tortilla and some salsa, and time for breakfast.